Hi everyone, welcome to the Spring Framework Bootcamp. In this video, we are going to start one of the most important topic, that is Hibernate relationship mappings. Okay, so now at first let's see what we are going to cover in this video. Okay, so now the very important point is the very first thing we are going to understand the problem. Okay, the most important point. Why? Because see, first we need to understand the problem, what problem we have faced, so that we need relationship mappings as a solution. Okay, so one of the most important point. The second is how to use the mappings. Okay, third, types of loading. In what scenarios we should have to use the eager or lazy, what type of loading. Okay, don't worry, if you don't know, I'm going to teach you from scratch in detail. Thousands of time I told you that the videos are not only for the knowledge purpose but also for the interview preparation. Okay, so don't worry. The fourth point is my favorite point, that is unidirectional and bidirectional. And why? Here also why. Okay, why? Interview preparation. Okay, so while explaining this point, I'll give you a few tasks and you'll learn a lot. Okay, and the fifth point is let's do a project. Fine, so I hope you got all the points. Okay, now let's take point number one. Okay, let's understand the problem, what problem we have faced. Okay, so let's start the video. And yeah, before starting the video, please make sure you subscribe my channel if you haven't subscribed, because I need your support. Okay, so you can see I've created a simple Spring Boot app, and in that I've created two entity classes. The first class by the name user and the second entity class by the name user details. Okay, these are the fields for the user ID, name and email, and for the user details ID, address, phone number and passport number. Okay, user details. Fine. Now you can see my application is up and running, so definitely the table got created in my database. So let me open my command line MySQL. Okay, and select a star from user. Okay, and select a star from user details. Okay, so you can see I've also inserted few records. Fine. Now just pay attention and let's understand the problem. Okay, so let me ask you a question, that by just seeing the user details table data, by just seeing the user details table data, can you tell me that this data belongs to which user among all three? I have three users, John, Mike and Joe. By just seeing the user details table data, for example, can you just tell me this passport number belongs to which user? No, right? We can't tell. Okay, you can't tell. Why? Because there is no any relationship between these two tables. There is no any relationship between these two tables. Okay, so what's the solution? This is the problem. What's the solution? Pause the video and think. You know the answer. Okay, so the solution is foreign key. Yeah, using foreign key, let's build the relationship between these two tables, and then we can easily say that. Okay, fine. See, you are going to learn a lot in this video. A lot. Why unidirectional? Why bidirectional? Okay, plus no one will tell you that why we have added the foreign key column here or here. Why not in other side? In what scenario or what cases we should have to use the one way or two way relationship? Okay, a lot. Around 80 to 90% of your doubts get resolved. Okay, fine. So let's start with building the relationship first between these two tables using foreign key. Okay, so as you all know that the ID column is the primary key in its own table. So this is the ID is the primary key in its own table user, and this ID is the primary key in its own table, that is user details. Fine. So let's join the column. Let's join the ID column of user table to user details. So this is the user ID. Okay, this is the column we have joined in my user details table. Okay, and the values are same. So 1, 2, 3. Now we can say easily that, for example, this address, this phone number, and this passport number belongs to user ID 2. User ID 2, that means these are of Mike. Okay, similarly John, similarly Joe. We can easily say that. Okay, so we have built the relationship between these two tables. Done. Let me erase this. Okay, and let me again user ID and 1, 2, 3. Now there might be few questions running in your mind. Okay, the first question is, okay, we have built the relationship between these two tables, but can you tell me that what type of relationship is this? Okay, so just answer a few questions. User and user details. So just tell me, one user can have how many passport number or user details? One, right? One passport belongs to how many users? One, right? So from the user to user details, it is 1 to 1. From user details to user, it is also 1 to 1. Okay, so here also 1 to 1, and here also 1 to 1. That means open your notebook and put the heading 1 to 1 relationship. Okay, so it's a 1 to 1 relationship. Fine. Okay, so this is the user ID and 1, 2, 3. Okay, the ID we have mapped here. Okay, so it is a 1 to 1 relationship, 1 to 1 relationship. Fine. The first question done. The second question, and the most tricky, the most important and interesting question is that, okay, using the foreign key we have built the relationship between these two tables. That means we have joined this column. Okay, so yeah, one more thing. What we have done, we have joined the column. Join column. This is our first annotation. Okay, on whatever field, if you mention at join column, that field represent as a foreign key. Yeah, simple. Okay, so this is our first annotation, join column, and this is our second annotation, 1 to 1. Okay, see, this is just a 25% done. Cascade, okay, mapped by, loading, okay, fetch type, lot of the things are remaining. Fine. So yeah, so where we are, yeah, so we have built the relationship by joining this column, the ID column of the user table, to the user details here. Can we do the reverse also? Just like, instead of joining this ID column of user table, let's join the ID column of the user details in the user table. Here, user details ID. Okay, this is ID. Okay, instead of joining this ID to my user details, let's join this column. Yeah, and 1, 2, 3, whatever values are. So in this way also we can say easily, fine, this is the user Mike and the name is Mike, belongs to the details user details ID is 2. Okay, so user details ID is 2. That means New York, this is the phone number and this is the passport number belongs to Mike. Yeah, we can easily say that. Fine. But if I tell you that this approach is not recommended, then then see here. So this is what user detail ID. Okay, so we have joined the ID column from user details here. Okay, now you ask me that why you have told us this approach, adding the foreign key here, is not recommended. Okay, we can easily figure out the user details by just seeing the user table. We can easily figure out, just like for example this user. So Joe, this is the mail ID and this is the name. So the user detail ID is 3. User detail ID is 3. That means this address, this phone number and this passport number belongs to Joe. Yeah, we have figured out. Then why it is not recommended? Why we can't? Why it's not a good approach to add the foreign key here? Okay, you'll search, find a very few videos you will find where they will clear this doubt. Okay, else it's correct approach. There is no problem. Let me tell you. So this is what. Okay, user detail ID 1 2 3. Okay, this is the ID column we have added here. Fine. The first thing you need to know is user is the independent entity and user detail is the dependent entity. Depends on user. Okay, if user not exist, then there is a no chance, there is no existence of user details. If you will exist, then only your details will exist. Otherwise, okay, so user detail is a dependent on user. Okay, there is no existence of user details without user. There is no existence of user detail without user. Okay, fine, don't worry. Now let me give you a real world example. Let's visualize and think logically. Okay, after that everything got cleared. Okay, so this is what user detail ID 1 2 3. So just think, we have launched this application and we have added here foreign key. Okay, we have built the one-to-one relationship one way, added the foreign key column here and launched the application. Now in actual, how it looks like, how this table looks like, let me draw here. So this is the ID column. Okay, this is the email column, this is the name column and this is the user detail ID column. Okay, now suppose a user came and signed up in our application. So the details came here. Suppose one XYZ, name also XYZ. Okay, and user detail is something 1. Now another user signed up, some details this and here is null. Is it possible? A null value here, is it possible or not? Yes, it is possible. User details is not mandatory. User may or may not enter the details. Just think, find there is a sign up form. Okay, in the sign up form user had to sign up. Okay, so what they'll ask, they'll ask the email and password and the name, and there is a sign up button. Once you redirect to the dashboard, then there is an option. add user details, where your address, phone number, or your number, so any number, okay, passport number, then the details will ask. User details is not mandatory. Suppose user have not entered the details, then here you'll get the null values. Here you'll get the null values. Okay, but let's reverse the condition. User ID. Okay, now we've added this column here. Okay, as a foreign key, 123 user ID. User will definitely exist. Once user will exist, okay, fine. It enter into the dashboard. Okay, and then we'll ask them add user details. After that, if user details will add it, if the user add his or her details, then we'll build the relationship. Okay, yes or no? Yes or no? If user exists, then only the user details will exist. So this is what we build the relationship. Okay, so now how it should looks like in the production environment in this scenario. So this is what the user table ID, email and name. Fine. User came, this is the ID, some email and some name. Fine. Okay. Now this is what our create user controller method. Okay, for this we have another method, add user detail. Okay, so from the dashboard, when user entered his or her detail, there will just run this method. Okay, and then in the service class we will set the user, because we already have the user ID. Build the relationship. Yeah, that's why this is the correct approach. You should have to code in the correct way. I'm always telling you that the videos not only for the knowledge purpose but also for the interview preparation. Okay, and I want you to be doubt free. Fine. Okay, so this is what we our question number third. Okay, I hope you'll get the clear cut understanding. Okay, so now one last thing is user ID. Okay, this is the user ID column we have joined here, and 1 2 3. Fine. Now the relationship we have built is unidirectional. Unidirectional, or we can call it as a one-way relationship. One-way relationship. Okay, that means user doesn't need to know about user details. Why? Because see here, user details is a supplementary data, might not always exist. Okay, so reverse is okay, but user doesn't need to know about user details. Okay, so in this scenario, unidirectional or one-way relationship is fine. But now you'll ask me, okay, give me a real world example where we have to build the bidirectional from the both side. Okay, okay, I'm here to explain you. So let me think. Okay, I got it. So the real world example, right? So the first entity is author and the second entity is blog post. Fine. So just see here. Author wants to access all his blogs. Author wants to access all his blogs, and each blog needs author information. Okay, so in this case, okay, this is a task for you. In this case, we'll build bidirectional relationship. No task, because in the case of bidirectional, I need to explain you. I want to explain you the importance of cascade and mapped by and few things. Okay, fine. Don't worry, I'll only explain. So this is what all the theory part. Now let's directly jump into the code. Let's build the one-way relationship and let's this simple user details project, test it out and then finish it. Okay. So yeah, let's go to the Eclipse. Okay, so now let's build one-to-one relationship between these two entities. Okay, user and user details. So first let me put them side by side. Fine. So now what we have discussed, so we have discussed that we need to add the foreign key here in the user details as user ID. As user ID. Okay. So in the user details. Fine. So in the user details, let's add private of type user and user. Fine. Why I have put here the type user? To get access of complete object. Okay, that's why I told you, if you remember, that there is a possibility of getting null values when we'll add the foreign key here, user side, here. Okay, here. Fine. So let me show you that also. Suppose if we'll add here, so it should looks like private user details and user details. Okay, so the final production table should looks like this. Okay, so the ID, okay, name, email and user detail. Okay, user detail underscore ID. Fine. So user came and here ID, some name, some email, and suppose user may or may not provide or enter the user details as it is not mandatory. So here it is null. Okay, object null. So there is a unnecessary null value. Fine, that's why will not create here. Okay, so let me, okay, fine. And the next thing is, I told you our first annotation, that is at join column. Okay, so let's provide the name of the column, that is user ID. Fine. And the relationship type is one to one. Okay, fine. You can also add the reference column name, that is this. Okay, here comma separated. Fine. So we have set it up and it's running, right? So let me open my console. Okay, let me go to my here and again select star from user details. See, one column added as a foreign key. Okay, what we have discussed here, user ID and this. Fine, the rest is let's code it. Okay, now the very basic thing is remaining. Pause the video and do it yourself. Okay, skeleton, controller, service and repository, and then created two controller methods. The first is create user and the second is add user detail. Provide the user detail DTO and in the path variable provide user ID. Okay, so in the path variable you provide user ID, okay, and user DTO so that you can build the relationship. Okay, I hope you got the concept idea. Fine, so let me set up the skeleton first. Controller, okay, controller user controller. Okay, REST controller and request mapping users. Okay, done. The next is service. User service. Okay, and the next is repository. Okay, interface. So user repository. Okay, and user detail repository. User detail repository. Okay, fine. So extends JPA repository. Okay, and okay, so user, I was thinking that if we'll map in the reverse direction, then it is not required to create the user detail repository. Okay, when we add the cascade here, where, okay, here, fine. So later I'll tell you. Okay, cascade, loading, mapped by, okay, everything. No worries in that. Okay, this is done, and the similar extends JPA repository. Okay, and details user details, and here long. Okay, what I just long. Okay, now controller, let's create our first method, that is public response entity of type user and create user. Okay, request body of type user, and so post mapping create user. Okay, let me auto wire the private user service. Okay, and auto wired. Return response entity. Okay, dot. Okay, and this user service dot create user. Let's pass the user. Okay, this user, let's import it. Okay, now let's create user method in the user service class. User service. Okay, public string create user. I'm getting the user here. Okay, let me auto wire the repository user repository. Okay, and then user repository dot save user. Okay, so it will create a user. Where is that gone? Okay, return. Okay, user. Done, right? So okay, so it will create a user. It will create a user. Fine. Here a user. Fine. Okay, here. So here a user. Okay, now let's create a DTO. Let's create a DTO. DTO and user details DTO. Okay, and here let me provide this user detail DTO private string. Let me copy it. Okay, fine, I don't need you, you come here. Okay, where is my DTO? Here is my DTO. Okay, done. Add data. Fine, now let's move to our controller and create the final method. Public response entity of type user details. Okay, add user details. Okay, so here at path variable long user ID and at request body user details DTO. Okay, fine, let me now it is okay. Return response entity dot okay, where is the user service dot add user details. Okay, add user details and let's pass the user ID and this DTO. Okay, now let's create add user details method in the user service. Public returning the user details. Okay, and this is the method. I'm getting the long user ID and user detail DTO. Okay, first let me check user equals user repository dot find by ID. Okay, I'm getting the ID dot or else throw. Okay, if the user is there, if the user is present for this particular user ID, if not, then throw lambda expression new runtime exception and user not found for the ID you come here. Okay, user ID. Okay, now it's better. Okay, now let me create the user details equals new user details and user details dot set address. Okay, what I'm getting here in the DTO. So user details dot get address. Similarly, user details dot set phone, user details DTO dot get phone, and user details dot set passport number. Okay, so I have just put everything in the string. Okay, fine, later on will change. DTO dot get passport number. Okay, fine, now you can see where is my that user details. Okay, now I have set everything, every data what I'm getting in the user details DTO to my user details. Okay, these fields. Fine. Now let me set the user. Let me set the user. So user details dot set user. Okay, set users, getter setters, and the users, this user. Okay, because I'm getting the ID, so for that ID I fetch the user, and then I've set the details, and then set the user. Done. And finally user detail repo. Okay, so I haven't created that. One second, where is the service? So let me auto wire that also. Private user detail repository auto wired. Need to save the user details, so save, and this user detail. Okay, return. Done. Okay, controller, this is the controller. Let me add post mapping, and here the path variable user ID, and then add user details. One second. Okay, so now let me open my Postman and let's test it out. Okay, so Postman, it's opening, and okay, so fine. Post mapping, post request, localhost 8080. Okay, and users, create user. And yeah, first let me just show you that I have deleted all the records. That is, you can see select star from user. Okay, and select star from user details. Fine. Okay, I also show you DESC, describe user. Okay, and describe user details. See here, ID, email, name, ID, address, passport number, phone, and user ID. Okay, fine. So now let me go there, and users, and create user. Okay, body JSON, and let me provide the data, name, email. Okay, name, for example, name is Elon. Okay, and email Elon Musk at Gmail, not Gmail, Xmail. Okay, xmail.com. Fine. Okay, let me send it. See here, 200. Okay, fine. ID 1, and let me go there, select star from user. Okay, you can see 1, this is the data. Okay, fine. So just visualize. Okay, fine. User Elon enter to our site and signed up. So we have asked email and name and successfully signed up. Enter into the dashboard. Now Elon Musk will enter the details. Okay, user details, his details. Fine. So now users and the ID. Okay, so controller, this is the user ID, and add user details. Okay, so the for the user ID 1, and add user details. Here we'll pass the DTO details, address, user details. Okay, address is California. Okay, then phone is um, +10098. Okay, and passport number is 456E1R. Okay, then fine, done. Let's send it. Okay, you can see this is the data I got. Okay, user details and for the user. Okay, because we have built the relationship, it is connected. So let me copy it and let me paste it here. Okay, so that it's easily visible. You can see this is the data. Fine, for the user details and address, phone number, passport number, and the user. Okay, the user. So this is for this user. This is the user details. Okay, let me go to my, where is that, select staff from user details. Okay, for the ID 1, now let me try to add for the ID 2 which is not exist. So definitely user not found for the ID 2. Okay, runtime exception as we have already put here. Okay, if not found, then user not found for the ID, throw the exception. Okay, so this is what we have built, the one-to-one unidirectional relationship between these two. Okay, user and user details. Fine. Now the video is getting little bit long, so in the next video let's take the author and blog post example. Let's set up the two-way, that is bidirectional relationship. Okay, and then cascade, then mapped by loading. Fine. I promised you to explain the loading in this video, but yeah, in the next video I'll explain it. Okay, from the next video let's directly jump into the code. Okay, because this is the starting video, so that's why I want you to give a foundation. Okay, I can't leave like this. Okay, so this is what, and then we'll proceed further with one to many, many to many, and other mappings, and then along with it projects. Fine. So I hope you enjoyed the video, and if you enjoyed the video then please like, share and subscribe, share, and thank you.